Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you, did you enjoy your school days? Yes or no?
Yes.
No.
A few yeses, a few no's. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story about 4 little boys. Brian, Barry, Eric and Keith. These 4 little boys failed their 11 plus. They're failures before they even start. So they go to a secondary modern school. These 4 little boys have no future other than to be practical. They're not going to go to grammar school, so they're not going to go to university. They're not going to get a good job. They're going to work probably with their hands. The pinnacle of the girls that go to secondary modern school is they're probably going to work in an office or a shop. They might get to work in Woolworths. If they're a little bit cleverer, they might get to work in British Home Stores. And if they're really a high achieving failure, they might even get to Marks and Spencer's. These 4 little boys, 11-year-old, their first year in secondary modern school. They're not naughty boys, they're just mischievous boys. They just like doing things together, and they just keep doing things and getting into trouble. In their first term, from September to Christmas, every teacher in the school knew of these 4 little boys, and they got the nickname of the gang. If ever there was a problem in the school, the headmaster stood up at the morning assembly and he'd rattle off the 4 boys' names, come and see me in my office. And everybody in the school knew that the gang were in for the cane. The standard procedure of the headmaster. The headmaster was a little Hitler. In fact, he'd put Hitler to shame. He had a very large inferiority complex. He never left his office. He didn't like any of the teachers, and the teachers didn't like him. But he did impose discipline, and because he never left his office, all the teachers were quite happy because they could carry on teaching without any problems. And this headmaster ran the school as if it were totally his own, almost a borstal. When you had to knock on the door, there were 2 lights on the outside, a red one and a green one. You knocked on the door and the red light came on. The 4 little boys would have to stand there. People walking up and down the corridor knew exactly what those little boys were in for, so they had to wait. And eventually the green light would come on. You'd open the door, the little boys would go in, and the headmaster would ask him, "What have you been doing?" And of course the little boys would say, "I don't know." The headmaster would then tell them what they had done wrong. Okay, they all knew what was going to happen. The headmaster would go over to his glass-fronted bookcase, on which were 2 canes. The headmaster would take 1 cane out of the cupboard, and he would line the 4 boys up. And he would ask them whether they were right or left-handed. And the 4 little boys were all right-handed. So he would say, "Okay, hold your left hand out." The one thing that I learned when I used to get the cane was, when you hold your hand out, you must keep your thumb down because you must not let him hit that joint. Otherwise you're in trouble. But he always tried to catch you across the end of your palm onto the beginning of your fingers. So these 4 little boys were all standing there like this. And the headmaster would swing, and of course the 4 little boys would instinctively pull their hand away. And if the headmaster went down and hit his leg, that was even worse because you'd cop it. So the 4 little boys were standing there. Keith put his hand up, and the headmaster, whack! Second little boy, Eric, so the second little boy, Brian, put his hand up, whack! Third little boy, Brian, put his hand up, whack! The 4th little boy, Eric, was actually quite a strong little boy. he wasn't going to be intimidated by this policeman, by this headmaster. So Eric was standing there, and the headmaster brought the cane down, but Eric grabbed it and twisted it, and he broke it, which made the headmaster absolutely livid. And Eric just looked at him, and the other 4 boys cowered. And Eric just stood there with this end of the broken cane in his hand. The headmaster immediately went back to the cupboard, took the second cane out, and was just going to administer another whack to Eric when he thought, no, because if he breaks this one, my authority is gone. So he didn't do it. He then told the 4 boys to get out. The 4 boys walked out, and it only took one playtime before the whole school knew what Eric had done. And the gang were then very, very famous. The headmaster lost all authority in the school. He stayed in his office even more. And these 4 boys got away with even more murder. But they couldn't be caned again because Eric saved them. If we were like Thomas and the 4 boys could become invisible, could you imagine what extra they could have done around the school? They could have had a great time, couldn't they? But it didn't really matter because those 4 boys became very well known, and at the end of the day they had a good time. But I don't think that they really enjoyed themselves. And I think they tolerated the system, but they did become famous.